Hi friends, are you ready to start the next chapters of Front Desk? When we left off, Jason was starting to bully Mia quite a bit, and it was making her pretty upset. But Lupe was telling her just to try and ignore it. Also, Mr. Yao was trying to kick Hank out of the motel because he hadn't paid rent, and then he threatened her parents that the money was going to come out of their paycheck if they didn't kick Hank out. All right, are you ready? Chapter 31. At school, Jason continued making fun of my clothes. Even the sixth graders were in on it now. At first, I managed to convince myself that it was kind of flattering that they were even talking about me, but then I heard what they said. In the bathroom, a couple of sixth grade girls were gossiping. Her pants. Oh my gosh, have you seen her pants? They asked each other while I sat in the stall. It's like she buys her clothes by the pound. My grandmother dresses better than her. I sat on the toilet waiting for them to leave, my heart clenching like a fist. Dear mean girls, you're right. I buy my clothes by the pound. My mom and I go over to the Goodwill and we buy old secondhand clothes. Clothes you probably threw away. I'm probably wearing your socks right now. Let me tell you what it's like to buy secondhand clothes. First, my mom washes it 1,000,000 times. She scrubs it with her hands and then puts it in the washer and then scrubs it again. Still, when I first put it on, I wriggle and squirm, thinking of all the girls who've been inside the pants before. I used to hope it was girls like you, girls who live in big houses, girls who go on vacation in the summer. I used to think that maybe if I was wearing some pants, I kind of went on vacation too, and that used to make me happy. Now do you know what I think? I think I'd rather go on vacation than be like you. Mia Tang, or not go on vacation than be like you. Mia Tang. P.S. Floral cotton pants are way more comfy than jeans. It was so satisfying to write the letter that for a full second I actually thought about putting it into my backpack and giving it to the girls at school, but I didn't. School dragged on. The popular girls continued mocking me. Mr. Yao called up twice a day to scream at us. The only thing that made me feel a tiny bit better was that somebody left $5 in the tip jar after their stay. One afternoon while I was sitting at the front desk, a beat-up old Chevrolet showed up by the motel. It inched toward us, the driver craning his neck as he peered in. I squinted inside the car and saw a Chinese man. I figured he must be a friend of Auntie Lang's, looking for the blue baseball cap, so I immediately waved at him to come in. Mr. Yao wasn't there. The coast was clear. Uncle Zhu was a big man, about 6'2", 200 pounds, and northern Chinese. He said proudly in his thick Harbin accent. My dad pointed to his compact car. And you've been sleeping in that thing? Uncle Zhu had explained that he hadn't had a place to sleep for a little while. It's been a hard couple of weeks, he said, stretching as he said the words. Well, let's get you a proper shower and a meal, my dad said, leading him toward room 3. At dinner, Uncle Zhu told us that he'd been working as a janitor in a hospice. What's hospice? I asked. He thought for a minute about how to put it. It's basically a waiting room. You mean like an airport? I asked. The day I left China, Shin had pointed to the waiting room in the arrivals section right before I got to the plane. I'll see you right there in a couple of years, okay? He had said. I nodded. Tears stung the back of my eyes. The time will flash by like a vroom, he said, and then he looked down at the floor and whispered, and when you come back, you'll be all American. No, I won't, I insisted. Well, too. Nothing's going to change, Shen. Yes, it will, he said. You're going to come back wearing all kinds of fancy clothes. Oh, Shen, if you only knew. I looked up from my floral pants at Uncle Zhu. So, is that what it is? A waiting room for arrivals? I asked. He glanced at my parents as if to get their permission. They nodded at him. It's a waiting room for people who are about to pass away, he finally said. Oh. Ever so quickly, my mother picked up the last of the beef with her chopsticks and set it down onto Uncle Zhu's plate. Uncle Zhu set off for San Diego the next morning. When I heard San Diego, I dashed to the front office and jotted down another one of the addresses. Uncle Zhu promised he'd drive by and call me if he saw the Thunderbird. As my dad and I waved to Uncle Zhu, suddenly I had an idea. I turned to my dad. What if we hide Hank like the immigrants? I asked him. Then Mr. Yao would stop screaming at us. He would never know. My dad shook his head and said that that was way too risky. The immigrants only stayed for one night, whereas Hank lived here. We were bound to get caught. I decided to drop it. A week later, my parents received their paycheck from Mr. Yao. $140 was missing. True to his word, Mr. Yao was making us pay for Hank $20 per day. My parents got into a big fight about what to do. My mother said we should quit. My dad wouldn't hear of it. Quit? My dad said. And do what? What do you think is better out there? You heard the stories from all the immigrants. My mother didn't respond, but instead went to the kitchen and pulled out stinky tofu paste from the back of the cupboard. Stinky tofu paste was this disgusting concoction that you could buy at the Chinese supermarket, which she ate whenever she'd been through a lot. And even though I didn't like the smell of tofu, it smelled more like... I still liked it more than hearing my parents fighting. As my mom munched away on her paste, my dad and I sat out by the curb, waiting for the smell to clear. The early evening wind sighed between us. I wanted to tell them it was going to be okay, that I had a plan to save us. All I needed was $300, and I even had a plan for that too. So far, I had made $30 in tips. But it didn't end up telling him. I was worried if he knew about the $30, he might take it away, and then I wouldn't be able to save us. Chapter 32. In school the next day, Mrs. Douglas clapped her hands together and announced that we were having a math challenge. No, we're not ready, we insisted, but Mrs. Douglas wouldn't hear anything of it. She split us up into teams of 4. We were to work together to solve one extra tough math question, and the first team with the right answer was the winner. Jason, thankfully, was not on my team, but Bethany, Joanne, and Paula were, and the 3 of them were the most popular girls in our year. I braced for more jokes about my pants. To my surprise, when they heard I was on their team, they cheered, "Yes, we got the Chinese girl!" I took a seat next to my new teammates and smiled. I gazed up at the board, pencil ready, determined not to let my team down. I couldn't believe my eyes when Mrs. Douglas finished writing the problem on the board. It was a problem about a motel. The daily rate for a room in a motel is $30 a day. A customer at a motel wants to rent the room for just 2 hours. How much does the motel charge the customer? I glanced at Jason, who looked similarly stoked. I clenched my pencil tighter. No way I was letting him win this. $30, I said to my teammates immediately. Just because someone wants to leave early, you don't give them a discount. Bethany tossed her blonde hair over her shoulder and looked hesitantly at me. Are you sure? She asked. Shouldn't it be cheaper? I shook my head. Trust me. I wanted to say I've been doing this a long time. It's $30, I repeated. I'm positive. My group went with the answer, raising their hand to tell Mrs. Douglas, but as soon as we told Mrs. Douglas our answer, she shook her head and said it was wrong. That's not the correct answer, she said. Angry eyes turned to me. You said it was $30, my teammates yelled at me. I'm sorry, I muttered. You're Chinese. You're supposed to be good at math. She's not Chinese, Joanne said. Her eyes dropped to my pants. She's ugly knees. These words sliced into me. By the time we went back and started calculating 2 divided by 24 times 30, Jason's group already blurted out the correct answer, 250. We had lost the math challenge. Bravo, Miss Douglas said, handing Jason's team cheery lollipops as she clapped her hands again and asked to return to our original seats. Jason sat next to me, sucking loudly on his lollipop, boasting his victory with every lick. Guess it's official, he said. I'm better than you at math. I wanted to remind him that I was there when his dad screamed at him for being terrible at math, or had he forgotten. But that would have been too Jason of me. As Jason sucked away on his lollipop, I looked around at all the other kids. Lupe and everyone else were chatting and laughing, even though they also lost, while Bethany, Joanne, and Paula continued glaring at me from across the room. I could feel their disappointment on my back, shoulders, and everywhere. I put my head down at my desk, wondering if I looked more like the other kids in my class. If I had blonde hair and blue eyes, then would it be okay if I sucked at math? Chapter 33. I pulled my hair back. I was standing in front of the mirror on the manager's quarters, the afternoon traffic a dull rumbling in my ears. I glanced over at the kitchen. There was a banana on the table. I stared at it. Its blonde yellow hue. I walked over and picked it up. My eyes searched the room. It was just me in the manager's quarters. Quickly, I peeled the banana and walked over to the mirror again. I held the banana peel up, higher and higher, until it reached my head. then carefully draped the banana peel over my jet black hair. Hesitantly, I looked in the mirror. The blonde Mia smiled back. I stared and stared, so mesmerized by the reflection that I completely did not hear the back door opening and my mom coming in. My mother shrieked when she saw me. "What the heck are you doing?" she cried, pointing at the banana peel hugging my hair, the stem on top of my head. I instantly wiped the smile off my face. I yanked the banana peel off my head and threw it into the trash. "Why?" Mother demanded. "Why did you put a banana peel in your head?" She fished the peel out of the trash and placed it on the kitchen table. There it lay, limp and mushy, proof of my embarrassing little experiment. "Well?" my mom asked, her arms folded. I was just trying something out," I said. "What were you trying out?" I said nothing. "Did something happen at school today?" she asked. I bit my lower lip. I could feel my chin quivering. My mother's face softened. "It's okay," she said. "You can tell me." The tears came gushing out before the words did. I ran to my mother's arms. I told her how I got a math question wrong and the other kids mocked me, saying I would have gotten it right because I'm Chinese. When my mother heard that, she removed her arms. A new look took over her face, a look that I did not like at all. "They're right," she said. I took a step back, shaking my head. "No, she's not really saying that. She can't possibly be siding with them." She can, and she was. "How could you get a math problem wrong? What were you thinking?" My dad came in to see all the commotion was about. "What's going on?" "Your daughter just got a math question wrong at school. That's what's going on," she informed him. I was always your daughter when she wasn't happy with me, and my daughter when she was. I looked down at the floor. I heard my dad offer, "It's okay," to which my mother snapped, "No, it's not okay." She walked over, put her cold hands on my hot cheeks, and yelled, "Math is all you've got." That did it. I didn't even like math. "I don't even like math," I screamed back at her. "I like English." My mother's eyes widened. "English?" she exclaimed. I nodded. My heart thudded in my chest. 1 second passed, and then another, and then softly my mother breathed out a tornado. "You know what you are in English? You're a bicycle, and the other kids are cars." All right, Mia's got a lot to overcome in these next few chapters. Let's see what's going to happen. I'll see you next time.